He is one of the most famed military commanders in the Western theater of the Civil War, the Irish immigrant turned Confederate General Patrick Cleburne. His tenacity in battle earned him many accolades and made him respected throughout the Confederacy and even by his enemies. Unfortunately for the Confederacy, he would lose his life at the Battle of Franklin during a desperate attack on the Union 23rd and 4th Corps outside of the little Tennessee town. Welcome everyone to Half History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and this episode takes a detailed look at the Battle of Franklin, and more specifically, the death of Patrick Cleburne. He was only 36 years old when he fell on the field of battle. Being born in Ireland and serving in the British Army for a time, he would immigrate to Arkansas. When secession swept the South, he joined his adopted state of Arkansas in their fight against the United States. He fought in major battles of the Western Theater, including Shiloh, Perryville, Stones River, Chickamauga, the Atlanta Campaign, and finally Franklin. The night before Franklin, Confederate General John Bell Hood and his Army of Tennessee mostly slept as General Schofield's two corps slipped by them north of Spring Hill to the town of Franklin. The Union troops began to build fortifications south of the town, anchoring their left flank on the Harpeth River. Hood hoped to destroy Schofield's two corps by launching a major attack with most of his army against the entrenched Union lines. The Confederate battle line was arrayed on the divisional level from left to right as follows: Brown, Cleburne, French, Walthall, and Loring. Bates' division occupied or was supposed to occupy the far left flank, but never linked up with Brown's left and entered the attack late because they had to maneuver through a gap in the rolling hills. The Union formed two battle lines, with Ruger and Riley's men occupying the main entrenchments, while an advanced line under General Wagner made up of Conrad and Lane's brigades hoped to stall the Confederate onslaught. The divisions of French, Walthall, and Loring poured past Wagner's advanced brigades and made contact with the main Union line first. French's division clipped Conrad's flank as they went by. Brown and Cleburne slammed up against Wagner's line, and it quickly crumbled and the blue troops began running to the protection of the entrenchments. This gave the Confederates under Cleburne and Brown an advantage lacked by French and Walthall and Loring. The retreating line forced their entrenched comrades to hold their fire because they did not want to hit their own men. This allowed the two rebel divisions to advance fairly close to the enemy breastworks before receiving any heavy fire. The blue troops from the broken line fell into the freshly dug trenches breathless from running, but their rest was short-lived because their Confederate divisions of Brown and Cleburne followed close behind, and a ferocious fight ensued. Cleburne's men smashed into the blue line. General Govan, the commander of one of Cleburne's brigades, recounted the young divisional commander's death at about that moment. After receiving his final orders, we were directed to advance, which was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We had to advance across an open common subjected to the heavy fire of the Federal forces. We met the enemy in a short space of time and carried the first line commanded by Wagner. When that line was broken, General Cleburne's object seemed to be to run into the rear line with the fleeing Federals from Wagner's division. About that time, General Cleburne's horse was killed. His courier brought him another, and as he was in the act of mounting, this horse was killed. He then disappeared in the smoke of battle, and that was the last time I ever saw him alive. I spoke to his aide and told him I was sure the general would be killed, as I did not see how he could escape with his life under such terrific fire, and as he had never again appeared in the lines, confirmed my opinion that he was dead. The Union line broke under the weight of Brown's brigades. However, 2 of his brigadiers would be killed in the assault, with the other 2 wounded, and one of those being mortal. He himself was wounded. Brown's men held their own around the Carter House, not backing down, until General Opdyke's brigade came from the reserves and pushed them back to the entrenchments. However, Brown's division would not give up the entrenchments. Other smaller breakthroughs would occur along the line, with another significant one being at the Carter Cotton Gin by Cleburne and French's men. After most of the fighting ended, Bates' division formed and proceeded to attack. Their attack stalled out fairly quickly without any support to the right, and then ultimately fell back. Once night fell, the Union Army pulled back to Nashville, and Hood would continue to pursue and order another ill-fated attack outside of that city. The morning after the battle, a Mississippian remembered finding Cleburne's body. I and 2 others were the first to discover his dead body at early dawn the next morning. He was about 40 or 50 yards from the works. He lay flat upon his back as if asleep. His military cap partly covered his eyes. He had on a new gray uniform. It was unbuttoned and open. The lower part of his vest was unbuttoned and open. He wore a white linen shirt which was stained with blood on the front part of the left side, or just left of the abdomen. This was the only sign of a wound I saw on him, and I believe it is the only one he had received. I have always been inclined to think that feeling the end was near, he had thus laid himself down to die, or that his body was carried there during the night. He was in his sock feet, his boots having been stolen. His watch, sword belt, and other valuables were all gone, his body having been robbed during the night. His body and other generals fallen in battle were taken to the Carnton plantation to await burial. He was one of many who fell on the Confederate side on November 30th, 1864. If you go check out the battlefield today, like I did back in April, you will find it taken care of by the Battle of Franklin Trust. They have done a tremendous job reclaiming parts of the battlefield and putting up markers, signage, and having a great interpretive center and running the Carter House. That's why I have started a GoFundMe for the Trust. All the money will go directly to the Trust for preservation of the battlefield and its history. Please consider helping out and donating. Unlike other Civil War battlefields, Franklin is not a national park and thus is not federally funded. Please give whatever you can. I myself will be donating $25. I hope to get a couple of $100 to support the Trust. The GoFundMe will close on November 30th, and all the money raised during the month of November will go to the Trust. As always, links to the Patreon page, Teespring store, Facebook, and Twitter pages are all in the description below, as well as the GoFundMe link. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.